The ANC and its Hague Group have been exposed, collaborating with US-sanctioned groups and terrorist-linked operatives. Here's what's happened. With the ICJ case against Israel steaming ahead, South Africa's government, or rather the ANC, has decided to take no chances, realizing that beyond the ICJ, which is limited in scope, it will establish the Hague Group, which of course is a collective of several countries which aim to liberate the Palestinians, as they say, while seeking to punish Israel through boycotts and sanctions as well. Now, what's really alarming about this Hague Group is that although on the surface they try to paint themselves as being legitimate representatives of government, they've recently been exposed dealing with terror-linked people, as well as groups which have actually been sanctioned by the US due to their questionable behavior, particularly when it comes to being linked with terror activities. Now, before I get into this investigation, could I please remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already? It's completely free to do, and all you have to do is click on that subscribe button below the video. Furthermore, if you would like to enjoy some additional perks such as member-only videos and support the channel, you can do so by becoming a Power Club member. All you have to do is click on the join button below. Now let's get into it. As explained in this I24 news article, Anti-Israel Hague Group was caught coordinating with US-sanctioned groups. So it explains here how a top official from the Hague Group, which is a diplomatic coalition formed to pursue legal action against Israel, was caught on tape admitting that the organization secretly coordinates with a US-sanctioned NGO. During a webinar hosted last Thursday by United Staff for Gaza, Varsha Gandikota Nelutla, who is the group's executive secretary, revealed that the coalition's co-chairs, South Africa and Colombia, are regularly advised by Al-Haq. So the Ramallah-based organization Al-Haq was sanctioned by the US State Department last September for its role in anti-Israel lawfare. Gandikota Nelutla, apparently believing the briefing was confidential, described a very careful dynamic where civil society groups are present at every single ministerial meeting. However, she noted that these groups are kept off the formal roster to avoid scaring away the Europeans, she put it, who might otherwise view the Hague Group as a radical campaign group rather than a diplomatic group. I want to make sure that we're in a kind of confidential, friendly space here, Gandikota Nelutla stated before disclosing the involvement of Al-Haq and Al-Shabaka, a US-based think tank with a history of BDS activity. For those who don't know, the BDS is boycott, divestment, and sanctions, and it is a movement aimed at those exact things against Israel. The admission prompted an immediate warning from the webinar's chair, former senior UN official Andrew Gilmore, who reminded her that 108 people were on the call and that she should assume it's not confidential. And so already Gilmore picked up that clearly she is saying things that should not be made public, as in they realize that this is controversial. The revelation has raised questions about whether the Hague Group's leadership could face secondary US sanctions. When asked about the group's cooperation with Al-Haq, a State Department official referred inquiries to the Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control. The United States will continue to respond with significant and tangible consequences to punish entities that are complicit in ICC overreach, the official said, reiterating Washington's opposition to politicized investigations against its allies. Launched in early 2025, the Hague Group consists of South Africa, Colombia, Malaysia, Cuba, Namibia, and Senegal. While it aims to unite the Global South against alleged violations of international law, the coalition has faced recent instability with both Honduras and Bolivia announcing their exit from the group this past March. And so it appears that what could in fact happen is that the US may launch an investigation into the Hague Group and potentially impose sanctions on them as well, specifically due to the collaboration with Al-Haq. Just for confirmation, here we have a press release from the US Department of State explaining its decision to sanction certain foreign NGOs directly engaged in ICC's illegitimate targeting of Israel. So here, as explained, today I am designating 3 foreign NGOs, Al-Haq, who we mentioned, Al-Mazan Center for Human Rights, and the Palestinian Center for Human Rights, pursuant to Executive Order 14203, imposing sanctions on the ICC. These entities have directly engaged in efforts by the ICC to investigate, arrest, detain, or prosecute Israeli nationals without Israel's consent. This administration has been clear. The United States and Israel are not party to the Rome Statute and therefore not subject to the ICC's authority. We oppose the ICC's politicized agenda, overreach, and disregard for the sovereignty of the United States and that of our allies. The ongoing actions of the ICC set a dangerous precedent for all nations, and we will actively oppose actions that threaten our national interests and infringe on the sovereignty of the US and our allies, including Israel. The US will continue to respond with significant and tangible consequences to protect our troops, our sovereignty, and our allies from the ICC's disregard for sovereignty and to punish entities that are complicit in its overreach. Now, many of you might be wondering, well, why is Al-Haq so bad? How are they connected to terrorists? And as I give the answer to that question, I'm actually going to reveal something quite disturbing about the South African delegation that traveled to The Hague for the ICJ case against Israel. So here we have a report from the NGO Monitor explaining how the South African genocide complaint and PFLP linked NGOs. So what's really important now is for us to take a look at who the members of the delegation were, as well as their advisors. And I want us to specifically focus on one name. That person is Shawan Jabarin, the General Director of Al-Haq. Jabarin was convicted in 1985 for recruiting members for the PFLP and was also found guilty of arranging PFLP training outside Israel. In 1994, Jabarin was again arrested for alleged links and placed in administrative detention for 6 months. An Israeli statement to the UN notes that he had not discontinued his terrorist involvement and maintains his position in the leadership of the PFLP. Later, in a series of court cases in 2007 to 2009, the Israeli High Court of Justice found Jabarin to be a senior PFLP activist. Now, what's particularly important to understand about him is that he was actually a member of South Africa's delegation to The Hague when the ICJ case first started. And so here we see the massive connection between, first of all, the head of Al-Haq and South Africa, or rather the ANC, because he was supporting DIRCO with their specific delegation to the ICJ. And again, it's his NGO who has been working with the Hague Group, which is co-chaired by South Africa. And so this could spell disastrous implications for South Africa, with the US already breathing down the ANC's necks for multiple reasons. This is yet another cause for concern, whereby the US might decide to take action against South Africa. Hopefully, they realize that the ANC is not representative of South Africa as a whole, and therefore wider sanctions can at least be avoided. Thank you very much for tuning into this video. If you found it informative, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more content. Until next time, I'm Matthew Cohen, and this is the Power Pod.